The blue star and red star Kachinas represent a masterclass in evolutionary mechanics. In authentic Hopi cosmology, a Kachina is not a cosmic threat or a physical alien ship. It is a spirit messenger and personified natural law that bridges the unmanifest spirit world and physical reality. When Hopi tradition speaks of the transition from the fourth world to the fifth world, it describes an evolutionary bottleneck, a shift from dualistic fragmentation to systemic coherence. And the two stars represents the twin catalyst driving this leap. In Hopi tradition, the blue star Kachina represents the signal of cosmic realignment, and it marks the end of spiritual secrecy and the breakdown of illusion. It is like the unmasking of reality. The prophecy states that the blue star Kachina will remove his mask in the plaza before the uninitiated. In Hopi rituals, when a dancer unmasks, the archetype yields to the direct truth behind it. Evolutionarily, this signifies the collapse of false constructs, egoic defense mechanisms, and social illusions. And what was once hidden in the shadow or subconscious is brought into direct, glaring light. The color blue in indigenous symbolic systems corresponds to cold clarity, to water, breath, and the sky realm. The blue star is the awakening signal, a massive rise in the baseline frequency of collective awareness. It represents the psychological and spiritual shift where humanity can no longer sustain denial, projection, or systemic self deception. The red star Kachina, on the other hand, represents the catalyst of purification. So, if the blue star is the intellectual and spiritual wake up call, the red star is the physical and biological enforcement of that reality. Red, representing friction and deconstruction, is symbolized by heat, blood, by fire, and kinetic force. The red star acts as the purifier. It represents the phase where everything out of alignment with natural law or life out of balance experiences catastrophic friction. It is the fire that consumes disharmony. The red star Kachina does not punish in a moralistic sense. It functions as an entropy accelerator. Systems built on unsustainable foundations, whether psychological patterns, social structures, or bodily dis-ease, break down under the pressure of the new baseline frequency. Because the Hopi viewed time not as a straight line, but as a series of evolutionary world cycles, and with this particular solar eclipse, the evolutionary implications for the fourth to the fifth world holds an evolutionary standpoint. The dual emergence of the blue and red Kachinas signifies, in fact, a forced recalibration. This recalibration is really calling us to do the inner work because the human system, both our nervous system and our subtle physiology, must develop the capacity to hold higher charge and emotional transparency without dropping into trauma response or fight or flight panic. Rather than fighting the friction, which is the red Kachina, or floating into a detached idealism, which is the blue, our evolutionary survival requires grounding blue frequency awareness directly into red frequency physical reality. True human, or the emergence, right, of the true human, or which is the fifth world, is not populated by different species, but by humans who have passed through the day of purification. Those who have aligned the internal architecture with living systems rather than artificial control. And so, when we strip away the apocalyptic framing, the Hopi prophecy functions as a blueprint for nervous system capacity and psychological integration. The macrocosmic transition from the fourth world to the fifth world is a mirror of the individual journey from a dysregulated, ego driven state of survival to a regulated, integrated state of self awareness. And so the blue star represents the moment in shadow work when the unconscious becomes conscious, when what has been suppressed or repressed or masked is exposed to direct awareness. In Hopi tradition, when a Kachina dancer unmasks before the uninitiated, the illusion breaks. In shadow work, the mask is our defense architecture, which is our persona, right? Our people pleasing, our intellectualization or dissociation. The blue star frequency is the sudden, uncompromising awareness of our true motives, our implicit biases and repressed emotions. Physiologically, the blue star corresponds to somatic awareness and interoception. It represents entering the observer state. Medial, which is the medial prefrontal cortex activation, where you can track sensation, pattern recognition, and subtle bodily signals without immediately reacting or fleeing into distraction. And so, if the blue star brings the shadow into view, the red star provides the energetic heat required to burn through the stored tension and to integrate it. The red star is the friction. It represents the emotional uncomfortable states such as grief, anger, shame, and fear that arise when a long held defense mechanism collapses. It is the raw, unrefined material of the shadow demanding to be felt rather than rationalized. Physiologically, the red star represents the mobilization phase of the nervous system, or the sympathetic activation, or heat, or fight or flight energy, or the deep deactivation shakeout. Without proper grounding, this red heat feels like a trauma response, or a panic, or even an overwhelm. When contained within a resilient system, however, this heat is the energy of stored trauma discharging out of the body. And so, to shift from the fourth world to the fifth world consciousness, we need to expand the window of tolerance. The fourth world is characterized by a state where intellect is disconnected from body and nature. And in nervous system terms, this is chronic dysregulation, where we swing between hyperarousal or anxiety or hypervigilance and hypoarousal, which is perhaps feeling numb, burnout, or freeze. And so passing into the fifth world represents expanding that window of tolerance. The purification is simply the nervous system acquiring the capacity to hold intense energy, which is the red, with clear, unattached awareness, which is the blue, without snapping into defense mechanisms. In Hopi cosmology, two child warrior twins hold the Earth's axis in balance. One controls structure or vibration, the other controls sound or form. And in shadow work, we balance somatic sensation, which is red, with awareness and meaning, which is blue. For those who attempt to hold on to fourth world illusions, experience the red star as catastrophic destruction. In psychological terms, if you cling to your egoic defenses when your shadow is exposed, you experience a mental or emotional crisis. If you surrender the mask, however, the heat simply purifies the structure. The Hopi prophecy teaches that the transition between worlds is not survived through external fortification, but through internal alignment. The blue star gives you the vision to see your shadow clearly. The red star provides the heat to integrate it. And the fifth world human is one whose nervous system is wide enough to hold both the fire and the light without burning down the house.